Lewinsky and other women the former president reportedly had affairs with, while suggesting Hillary was complicit in smear campaigns against his accusers. Some of Trump's allies have said it's not the best strategy for him, but plenty of his surrogates are going there.
If you look at her being an enabler, really, in the 90s and really attacking these women, it goes against everything that she now tries to spout as a candidate for president. She'll say and do anything. Those are Barack Obama's words, not mine, that she'll say and do anything to become president of the United States.
I find it so interesting that there continues to be this conversation about what he has said. When you look at what she has done, Jennifer Flowers, Paula Jones, Monica Lewinsky, my goodness.
She didn't just stand by him. She attacked Monica Lewinsky. And after being married to Bill Clinton for 20 years, if you didn't know the moment Monica Lewinsky said that Bill Clinton violated her, that she was telling the truth, then you're too stupid to be president.
Hillary Clinton brushing off those attacks, saying Trump can run his campaign however he wants. And of course, Ben, that is the case. But what do you make of this, of Donald Trump dredging up these past marital infidelities of Hillary Clinton's husband as a strategy?
So I think Donald Trump has a choice right now, and he can either win the argument or he can win the presidency. And the fact is, in every poll that we've seen, the biggest concern for Donald Trump has been, is he qualified and does he have the temperament? And I think that there's a very easy path for him. And look, the reality is that it comes down to math to win these elections, right? 270 electoral votes. He's got the voters that got him through the primary. But he shouldn't be talking about this, dredging up this stuff and going on the attack. And in my opinion, he should be talking to, those undecideds, if there are any, those suburban moms, that the Clintons, first identified. But in Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Colorado, he needs to be targeting a very specific audience, and I think this just kind of clouds his message.
And Newt Gingrich sort of shares the same opinion as you do about the strategy. He's saying let's focus on the important things here. Dagan, he says it's totally wrong direction for Trump to go in. He said he should not let them bait him into a swamp where they can revel in the mud.
Right. I think anything is fair game, but going after Bill Clinton's infidelities is just stone cold stupidity in terms of the politics of it. Make her look like a victim and watch her win, because it worked to her advantage. Julie has talked about this before. If you look back in the 90s, Bill Clinton used to have much higher favorability ratings than Hillary did. You go back to, like, say, 1996, but by early 1999, after the Starr report, after the Monica Lewinsky scandal, Hillary Clinton's favorability, according to Gallup, was 11 percentage points higher than Bill Clinton's. And by her standing back, that's her way of playing the victim, and it will work for her.
All right, and will that happen this time, Julie, if he continues on this path?
If he continues on this path, that's what she should do, and that's what she will do. Dagan's absolutely right. And listen, Newt Gingrich is right, because Newt Gingrich knows from experience.
A Trump supporter, by the way.
A Trump supporter, but Newt Gingrich, we remember, tried this in 94. He tried, in 97 or 98. They tried to impeach Bill Clinton. They impeached him. What happened? They lost the House. Gingrich lost his speakership over it. It backfired. So Gingrich knows. Trump should listen. Rudy Giuliani, with all due respect, announced in a press conference that he was leaving his wife for another woman. This was at a press conference where his wife first found out that he was leaving her. So I don't think people like Rudy Giuliani are in any position to be lecturing anybody or moral authority. Frankly, neither is Donald Trump with his marital history. So if they want to continue to do that, that's fine. They will be turning out those white college-educated women that they need to win. And you're so right. It's all about math. This will subtract. It will not add to their coalition.
And it's confusing, too, because we spoke with Eric Trump after the debate, and he said, Eric Trump was saying it took a lot of courage for my father not to bring up those past infidelities in that debate. But then, just days after, he's going there.
Yeah, but courageous, by the way, is serving your country and going to Afghanistan or Iraq just to...
Yeah, but Collins is courageous.
Sorry,
Donald Trump is not courageous.
No, that's okay. I mean, the point that he's trying to make is that bringing back the idea that when the Clintons were in office, it was one scandal after another, after another, after another, and it was exhausting period of time to just live through that, never talking about anything of substance. There was always a crowd of corruption and scandal around them. That's the point he's trying to make, that we don't want to go back to that, but it's not working for him.
Well, and look, I honestly think that there is something that's there, but I think where he's mistaken is don't put the blame on Hillary for Bill's actions. If you want to talk about this, the way that Hillary treated a lot of those women was horrendous, and she did it publicly, and it was vicious.
So
you can talk about that, but don't blame her.
So
Kellyanne
Conway says she's not advising Trump to go there, but she actually did defend the strategy, saying it's fair game to think about how Hillary Clinton treated those women after the fact. She called Monica Lewinsky a Looney Tune. All that being said, you have to look at this poll. People were asked, has the presidential campaign brought out the best or the worst in people? As we continue this discussion, just 4% say it's brought out the best. 70%, Dagan, say it's brought out the worst in people. 20% neither, 5% both.
And I don't think that we're even there yet.
I know, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, we have how many days?
40 days, baby, of this stuff
until we have to go. But in terms of what would work, I think that you can look back at Bill Clinton's presidency and how the pair of them conducted themselves while in office, but you don't need to wade into the morass with them. And again, if a lot of what she said was on the record and you had sound bites, hey, have at it, go cut an ad. But that's not what it is. So you get into the situation of where you have the candidate or the surrogates explaining to the American people what was said back in the 90s, and most people don't remember.
And also these surrogates, I'm sorry, but these surrogates, first of all, are flawed themselves. These are not surrogates.
You made that point, yeah, that's true.
With pristine histories. Secondly, and I have to go back to this, what woman out there wants anybody to judge her marriage? Nobody. And women, and especially white college-educated women, are people that Donald Trump is bleeding. And those are women that he needs to get in order to win. And there are no women out there, unless they're complete partisans, who think it is fair game for anybody from outside of marriage to criticize a woman for staying with her husband for whatever reason she chose to stay with him.
But you go back to talking about bringing the scandal of the time. I mean, it makes so much sense to talk about they rented out the Lincoln bedroom. I mean, you just look at the money grab. They go the money instead of the scandals. I mean, the pay for play within the Clinton Foundation. If you look at the way they have sold government and monetized access over time.
Well, drive us down the road from that to the Clinton Foundation. It's the same behavior. They need to show us that thread through their entire public life.
But if you're going to go back to the Clinton administration, I mean, if we're going to go back that far, you know, we can talk about the fact that Bill Clinton had the chance to kill bin Laden 3 times past, the chance where they failed in Rwanda. They failed in Rwanda, and there were 800,000 people killed in a genocide. I mean, there's some real issues that are there. If we really want to go back and start poking holes in the administration, that's fine. I just think this thing right now is a landmine.
So bottom line, this just distracts from the real issues you're saying.
You have said this over and over again. Win over women by talking about the economy and incomes and the safety of our household, both financially and in terms of national security.
And what about millennials? Everybody's trying to reach out for that vote, Julie. Is this a good strategy to reach out to the younger voters?
Do you think millennial voters care about what happened in 1996 and who Bill Clinton may or may not have been having an affair with back in Arkansas in the 80s? I mean, come on, these millennials weren't alive in some of the
before Tinder.
Right, before Tinder, exactly. You know, that takes a lot of enterprise and skill before Tinder. So that's the difficulty, and I mean, it's politically so nonsensical. It's like that Seinfeld episode where, like, are you offended as one thing? No, I'm offended as a comedian. No, I'm not offended as a partisan. I'm offended as a political operative. This is not how you do it.
Well, we'll see how long that strategy lasts. All right, well, another first in this unpredictable election. Now a newspaper with the largest distribution in the country breaking its decades-long tradition of not taking sides and calling Donald Trump unfit to be president in a blistering attack. Is this more mainstream media bias? Plus, what investigators are learning about the final moments before a commuter train crash that left a young mother dead and over 100 others injured. Fox News alert, new leads in the search for answers. Investigators finding one of those black boxes from the commuter train that crashed into a busy station in New Jersey yesterday during rush hour. A young mother was killed. More than 100 other passengers were injured. David Lee Miller is live in Hoboken right now with the very latest coming from there, as that black box has now been found. David Lee?
That's right, Sandra, but authorities are still trying to figure out exactly how fast this train was traveling when the fatal crash occurred. Passengers, as well as those in the station, have all said it was moving at an excessive speed, far beyond apparently the 12-mile or the 10-mile-per-hour limit for this particular station. Investigators, as you mentioned, now have in their possession a data recorder that was recovered from the locomotive, and this could contain crucial information, not only just about speed, but about breaking as well. Another recorder located in the first car is still out of reach because the collapsed ceiling makes access extremely dangerous.
The destruction, if you can imagine, was just terrible. I came up as close as I could to the train within safe measures. So I was very close. We could see all the destruction. I mean, there are wires. It's very, it's devastation. So that's why we are concerned about the safety of our investigators.
Also, as part of their investigation, authorities hope to examine video that was recorded by cameras not only on the train, but recorded at the station as well. And another source of information, the engineer, Thomas Gallagher. Investigators hope to speak with him later today. They say they have already obtained samples of his blood and urine for their ongoing investigation. But Sandra, there are not going to be any quick answers here. The NTSB says it's going to remain on the ground for the next 7 to 10 days. But as for a full report about the cause of this crash, they say that's going to take about a year.
Yeah, it'll take some time. All right, David Lee Miller, thank you.
USA Today breaking a 34-year-long tradition of not taking sides and now urging readers to vote for anyone but Donald Trump. The editorial board writing, quote, because every presidential race is different, we revisit our non-endorsement policy every 4 years. We've never seen a reason to alter our approach until now. This year, one of the candidates, Republican nominee Donald Trump, is by unanimous consensus of the editorial board unfit for the presidency. The paper didn't go so far as to endorse Hillary Clinton, though, but listed reasons they believe Trump shouldn't be elected. Among them, they call him erratic, ill-equipped to be commander-in-chief. They say that he speaks recklessly and is a serial liar. But Trump firing back on Twitter saying, quote, the people are really smart in canceling subscriptions to the Dallas and Arizona papers, and now USA Today will lose readers. The people get it. Interesting turn of events here. It is, I mean, there's not a lot of logic. I'll start with you, Sandra. Okay. The idea of they're going to sit there and tell people, basically, you're deplorable and you're an idiot if you vote for Donald Trump. You vote for anyone, don't vote for him. They're calling their readers who have voted for him idiots. But it seems like a bad strategy.
I'm with you. I don't understand the logic. Isn't this, in the end, an endorsement of Donald Trump in and of itself, right? Yeah. Because if you're not going to endorse Hillary Clinton in that paper, but you're just going to say vote against Trump, you obviously are saying Hillary Clinton is so bad that all you can say is don't vote for this one. Yeah. I don't know. It could have a reverse effect.
I think you guys are it's grasping at straws a little. USA Today always has an opinion, or the other opinion. They try to give two sides. I guess Donald Trump is so offensive to them that they're saying vote for Gary Johnson, vote for Jill Stein, vote for Hillary Clinton, write in Mickey Mouse, write in Bob Dylan.
Why not endorse Hillary Clinton?
They say whatever you. They can't endorse Hillary Clinton because they say they have serious reservations about her sense of entitlement, her lack of candor, her extreme carelessness in handling classified information. Whatever you do, however, resist the siren song of a dangerous demagogue. I mean, if that is an intellectual elitism, I don't know what is, Dagan. And to make the point, that sentence, to write that, however, resist the siren song of a dangerous
it's
demagogue.
What an editorial board does. They're the only, I think, the only editorial board of a major paper who doesn't. By the way, Donald Trump has only gotten an endorsement from one media outlet across the country, and that's the National Enquirer. That's the only one.
In this election, this endorsement or anti-endorsement means bupkis. Zero, zilch, nada, niente, nothing to the candidacy of Donald Trump. In fact, if you go through those bullet points, ill-equipped to be commander-in-chief, career is checkered, speaks recklessly, isn't leveling with the American people, serial liar. That's Hillary Clinton.
That's Hillary Clinton.
That's Hillary Clinton. How about lying to the families of those killed in Benghazi to their face about why it happened? How about setting up a server to circumvent what you owed to the American people in terms of making information public to them, lying over and over again about why you did it, being investigated by the FBI? We can go on.
Julie, you look at what has happened here, and in many ways, this is yet another thing in the campaign that gets everybody more entrenched in their own views. Like, I mean, if you look at how you look at this, to you, this makes perfect sense, and you completely get what they're saying and totally agree with it. And to his followers, I think
I do
would say the opposite.
I do, but what I think is more startling is that we're breaking new ground here in ways I think we've never done before. Not just this endorsement, but the Arizona Republic, which in its history had never supported a Democrat before, a newspaper in Detroit that has never supported a Democrat before. All of them are coming out against Trump, which says to me that you may be right. It may not matter because people don't really take their cues from newspapers anymore. But there is a sense that he's such a unique candidate. This isn't a Mitt Romney. This isn't a George Bush. This is somebody, or a Hillary Clinton for that matter. He's such a unique candidate who poses such a grave danger in their view to the Republic.
To the establishment.
Not to the establishment, because the Arizona Star was not the establishment. They always supported Republicans. They weren't the liberal media
Republicans are the establishment. He threatens the system the way it is, and that's what his popularity is.
But to me, it almost resembled, I mean, I kept thinking, you know, trying to make an analogy, and it's like, you know, Obama's plan against terrorism, and it's just completely uncommitted and incomplete. I mean, if you care that much that you're going to break this tradition, that, you know, it was almost spineless, where they said, don't vote for this guy, but vote for anybody else, even maybe a third-party candidate, which essentially, if you're going to vote for a third-party candidate, you're essentially going to be voting for Trump in this case. But end it. You know, I mean, it's like they only went halfway. They said, don't vote for this guy, but they didn't have the courage to go all the way and say, vote for this person. And I just think that's spineless.
Interesting. All right, the United States is ramping up its fight against ISIS as President Obama explains why he still won't say radical Islamic terrorism. Does he need to name our enemy, or are we doing enough to defeat them? Plus, Donald Trump refusing to back down from his criticism of a former Miss Universe, why he says Hillary Clinton was duped by her, and whether this is a good strategy for him.
Well, the U.S. is ramping up its fight against ISIS. Fox News has learned that American troops have taken out 18 of the group's leaders in Iraq and Syria in just the past month. This as the Pentagon announced earlier this week that more than 600 U.S. troops are headed to Iraq to help take back Mosul, Iraq's second largest city. Many of the troops are intelligence personnel who will gather information ISIS is expected to leave behind. Meantime, President Obama is still facing criticism for refusing to say the term radical Islam. When confronted by a Gold Star mom at a recent town hall, he basically said it's a phony issue and that it unfairly tarnishes the vast majority of Muslims who are peaceful.
The truth of the matter is that this is an issue that has been sort of manufactured. What I have been careful about when I describe these issues is to make sure that we do not lump these murderers into the billion Muslims that exist around the world, including in this country, who are peaceful, who are responsible.
Ben, what is your initial response to hearing the president's explanation of why he won't say those words?
If you can't name an enemy, you're never going to understand the enemy. And if you don't understand the enemy, you're never going to defeat the enemy. And the reality is we have literally had confusion from the White House to the Pentagon to the battlefield for the last 10 years, and even more so during the Obama administration. And, I mean, this is a guy that's sending thousands. So, yes, we just sent 600, but there are upwards of 5,000 American soldiers that are in Iraq right now preparing for this battle for Mosul. 5,000. And we've got 10,000 soldiers in Afghanistan. And he still refuses to call it combat. And they say, well, they're not going to be on the front lines, as if this is still World War II and there are front lines. The fact is, our guys are over there. They have been dying. And this is going to be a very dangerous battle that our guys are going to be at risk. And if he can't even use these words, Islamic terrorism or combat, I'll tell you, to me, that just, it breaks my heart. And I think it's a betrayal of the American soldier.
That makes me concerned about military morale.
Yeah, no, it does. And can I ask you more about that phrase? Because every military person I talk to says the exact same thing, that if you can't define your enemy, you can't beat them. What does that mean? That you have to understand the psychology of why they hate you so much? Or what is it about naming and defining the enemy that allows you to beat them in a military perspective?
So I don't want to get too wonky and get in trouble, but I mean, to start defining, to understand it, because this is very complex. I mean, just take Mosul. You know, Mosul is a Sunni stronghold. You know, so Mosul's a Sunni stronghold. stronghold, but part of the force that's going to be taking this are going to be Shia militia, Shia Muslims, militias that are funded and driven by Iran. So the complexities are there. Then you have the Kurds that are partaking in this. You really have to understand the history, the culture, just to understand the mindset of these individuals.
Also, in part, radical Islamic terrorism, because this is not a geographic threat.
No.
This is an ideological and religious threat. And by not naming it, you don't acknowledge that, you don't recognize it, and you don't fight it.
Properly.
Do we fault FDR for saying Japan or Japanese, 15 times in about a 500-word declaration of war after Pearl Harbor? No. Was it the entire Japanese people? No. But did he use that word? Absolutely.
Well, but you also raise an excellent point, and I've been saying this for a very long time. Nobody, and I include this administration in this criticism, has ever really leveled with the American people. Not Barack Obama, not Hillary Clinton, not Donald Trump. Nobody who wants to be our leader or is currently our leader has sat down and said, this is what it's really going to take. It's not putting a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand soldiers on the back lines, or however they want to phrase it. It's actually sitting here and having a generational, and truly a generational, potentially a multi-generational effort to defeat this threat and this enemy. And it includes boots on the ground. It includes intelligence. It includes all sorts of issues.
I agree, and a lot of this is on Congress, and Congress has failed to do its job, in my opinion. And I'll tell you, there's one guy, and full disclosure, he's a friend, but Congressman Ryan Zinke, he's a former SEAL. He introduced legislation that was called a comprehensive strategy to defeat ISIL, saying, look, the White House and the DOD have to put together a plan, because we're still operating on this authorized use of military force going all the way back to 2001. We really don't know, what does winning mean? I mean, and look, this battle for Mosul is going to be tough, but that's going to be the easy part. What's going to happen the day after, and we've never had an understanding. And you nailed it.
Nobody ever talks about what winning entails, ever, on any level.
People are mad because the president has downplayed the threat from day one. What did he say? Islamic State was contained a day before. 130 people were slaughtered in Paris. We've heard it time and again. That's why people are angry.
So good to get the insights of a former Army Green Beret officer on the couch today. Ben, thank you. And you can hear more insights from Ben on the battle for Mosul. He sat down with our own Harris Faulkner. That interview will air this Sunday on Fox Report. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern Time right here on FNC.
Donald Trump is not backing down from his criticism of former Miss Universe, Alicia Machado. The Venezuela native has been in the spotlight since Hillary Clinton mentioned her in Monday night's debate, noting that Trump called her Miss Piggy after she gained weight. Overnight, the Republican nominee tweeting some of this. Wow, crooked Hillary was duped and used by my worst Miss Mew. Hillary floated her as an angel without checking her past, which is terrible. Then, did crooked Hillary help disgusting checkout sex tape and past Alicia M. become a U.S. citizen so she could use her in the debate? This amid reports that Machado was once accused by a Venezuelan judge of threatening to kill him after he indicted her then boyfriend for attempted murder. Meantime, Clinton reacted on Twitter, calling Trump's tweets unhinged. Her communications director, Jennifer Palmieri, weighing in a short time ago. Listen to this.
The resolution of the issue for him is simple. He could stop attacking her and apologize. And I think that's the point of her tweets. But he insulted her in real time as Miss Universe. He did it last night. He did it 2 days ago, and so she's going to stand. Hillary's going to stand up and defend her. And
Melissa, the Clinton campaign does not want him to stop talking about the Miss Universe. This is exactly what they want. Dr. Ben Carson was on Mornings with Maria today, and to paraphrase what he said, when talking about Miss Universe, don't go down the rat hole. And I said to him, well, he went down the rat hole in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I mean, I'm picturing this scene. What is he's like sleeping, and he gets up and he realizes he's still really angry about this situation. So he jumps out of bed and is like tweeting tweeting away. Just don't. Someone take the Twitter away from him, please. Just take the phone away. And, I mean, don't have the conversation. Meanwhile, you're exactly right. Like, I love how disingenuous politics are. They're like, we would just like him to leave her alone or whatever. No, they would love him to continue because it's a disaster, and he keeps doing it. I mean,
Well, the sex tape that he's referring to isn't a sex tape. Just to clarify this,
I mean,
that she appeared on it was more than a decade ago, a Spanish reality TV show, and allegedly had sex with one of the contestants on the reality show. And I step back and think, I cannot believe, for the love of God, that we're talking about this as part of our presidential election.
I mean, you have a first in American politics where a presidential candidate of a major party is urging the voters to check out a sex tape. It's unbelievable. And you're absolutely right, Melissa. Of course they don't want her to. Hillary's people don't want him to stop talking about it. But like, what's concerning to me is how easily he took the bait. She laid a trap for him that any of us could have seen from 500 miles away. He took it, and then he continued to run with it. Day after day after day, up to and including this
hour after hour.
They're loving this. The Democrats are sitting back and loving this because it's completely incomprehensible.
Here's what Trump supporters will tell you, and they will say it on Twitter, and I will repeat it here.
He has the right to defend himself.
Amen, girlfriend. Yes. And also, you're just a member of the drive-by media, and you don't get it.
Yeah, well, you know what? They're all saying on Twitter right now, so there are a whole bunch of people out there.
I'm acknowledging that he does have the right to defend himself.
I want to defer my time to Ben on this because it's so hard coming off the conversation that we just had about the threat that we face in ISIS, that we are sitting here having this discussion when there are such huge, much more important issues to be discussing.
There are, and it's funny that you mentioned the word drive-by, because if I was going to bring anything up about this woman, I would have said that this was a woman that had been accused of being an accomplice in a drive-by shooting. Years ago. But what I'd say is, to your point, you know, maybe a better tweet could have been, well, yes, I may or may not have said this in 1996, but Hillary in 1996, that's when she coined the phrase super predators. That's when she got off and told everybody that she landed in Bosnia under sniper fire. That was also in 1996. I mean, we've all said some stupid things. I probably said something really stupid not too long ago. But, I mean, the fact is, there's a way to combat this without just going after her, because you're right. I mean, Hillary camp, they love to watch what's occurring.
But what's worrisome is that he's fixated on it.
Yeah.
If you're a supporter, if you're even not a supporter and a conservative who's trying to decide whether you're going to vote for him, he's fixated on it because he's up in the middle of the night tweeting about it. Let it go. Who cares?
You wonder how much of this is driven by the fact that he ran his primary campaign in this matter and he plowed down 16 other candidates. And he says, I'm just going to continue to be myself and run that same strategy, which, Julie, as you have said many times, you can't employ the same strategy now that he did then. You've got to change.
I go back to what he needs and what he's lacking in ways that other presidential candidates on the Republican side have not lacked, and that is married women, right? White married women. If you're a woman and you have your candidate calling somebody Miss Piggy, Miss Housekeeping, being completely maligning her weight gain and harping on it, consistently defending why he criticized her for gaining weight, women who have not yet made up their minds, or even women who would normally be voting Republican, don't like that, because women don't like to be criticized for their weight, and it's just
in addition to that, women are saying, I've got work to do, I've got a family to feed, and I care about the economy and getting the country back on track.
Yeah, well, here's what I was doing in the middle of the night as I was coming to work, reading these tweets. I made this emoji face. Really?
Oh, gosh.
All right, we got to move on. Pressure is building on Donald Trump 10 days before he faces off with Hillary Clinton in their second presidential debate. Critics say Trump was not prepared enough for the first one. Now, the son of the president known as the great communicator, Ronald Reagan, has some blunt advice for Mr. Trump.
Hillary Clinton taking a dig at Donald Trump yesterday, big surprise, ahead of their next debate. That is a week from Sunday, by the way. Clinton making light of what critics are calling Trump's lack of preparation for the first debate. Watch.
I think after what we saw Monday night, we'll have 2 more debates to be able to contrast and compare. I have no idea what he's going to say the next time. But, I will spend some time preparing for it.
Trump's advisor is reportedly pushing him to practice more ahead of the next showdown, but there is no indication that he plans to participate in mock debates now. The son of President Ronald Reagan not mincing words and saying what he thinks Trump should do. Michael Reagan writing, quote, "My father recovered from his first debate against Mondale in 1984. Obama did the same against Romney in 2012. Trump can do the same thing. But like my mother always said to me, Michael, you'll never learn anything with your mouth open. It's time for Donald Trump to shut up and start listening." See, I think that's really prophetic because I'm not totally convinced that it's about practice necessarily.
Ooh, I am.
It's about listening to the people around you and their advice as opposed to always thinking that you know best. What do you think?
Well, so we have a saying in the Army, and it was sweat more in training and bleed less in battle.
Ooh, I like that.
And the point of that is, you know, one of the biggest things that Trump gets hit on all the time is qualifications, right? Is he qualified?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to have the 40 years of service that Hillary does, but show some competency in these issues. And the fact is, you know, I mean, I live in Colorado, and I spend a lot of time going through rural Colorado, and we're talking about ranchers and cattle and, you know, farmers.
Right.
And the fact is, you look at the poverty rates that are out there. I mean, these people are hurting. They are hurting,
yeah.
and they need some real solutions. They need real answers. So speak to that, you know, and it doesn't take a lot to just start really understanding the issues that you can show competency on foreign policy, economic. You know, I mean, that to me, I think if you just do a little bit of research, he doesn't have to meet the bar that somebody who has spent, you know, Senator, Secretary of State, First Lady, just get to the bar to show us.
It's not practice alone, that you have to listen and absorb the criticism that just coming your way and change. That it's like you said, that you gotta practice like you play, as opposed. What do you think?
It's the strategy of debate.
Yeah.
When asked about something that you don't want to talk about, what do? You button it. You slam the brakes on the car. You take the wheel and you turn it in the direction that you want to go. It's just strategy.
But that's fine. But
he could have done it over and over and over again, but he didn't.
But he needed
at all.
help with actually making some of his arguments. Just in and of itself, he needs improvement on the formation of an argument and making a conclusion to a point. I'm with Newt Gingrich, who is saying get some professional debaters, get some professional coaches, and get some advice how to form an argument.
As somebody who's a professional coach and preparing politicians for debates, there's two ways to do this, right? One is the way that I think he did it, which is he and his friends, all of whom are like-minded, sat around in Bedminster, where he was allegedly preparing for his debates, and threw out some ideas, and apparently they all, you know, isn't Hillary Clinton awful? God, she's awful. Why don't we hit her on this? Yeah, that's a good idea. That's fine if you're preparing for the junior high school debate club. The way it's done in real life is you do drills, you do mock debates, you find somebody who is as close to your opponent as possible to simulate it. You have somebody who's moderating, who's as close to Lester Holt or whoever the next moderators are going to be, Chris Wallace and others, to moderate it. And you sit down and you prepare for the worst. And as Dakin pointed out, you figure out how to pivot and get off the subject.
How's it different for a town hall? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't want to run out without asking that.
You simulate the town hall exactly in the same way. So you get a bunch of people who are going to throw their toughest questions at you, not a bunch of sycophants who are going to tell you how great you are, Mr. Trump, but a bunch of people who are going to look you in the eye and say, you called Elisa Machado, whatever her name is, Miss Piggy. How do you respond to that? You figure out the response. Right. You've said X about Rosie O'Donnell. How are you going to respond to that? You've said X about other people. Respond to that. And you do it honestly. You don't have a bunch of sycophants doing it. And the problem is, I don't know who in his world is able to have that discussion with him without him getting bent out of shape, walking out and saying,
well, you know what? I don't know if I should say this, but I've been thinking it's classic male versus female, where he ran out of energy after about 10 or 20 minutes, and she's hitting her stride after about an hour. He needs to work on that.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
We all thought that.
All right.
We all thought it.
Overriding President Obama's. You want to follow that? Is that what you wanted to do there?
I want to get in male species here. Go ahead.
Let's go to break. We'll come right back. After overriding President Obama's veto of the so-called 9/11 bill, lawmakers are now considering tightening it. The concerns about unintended consequences and whether President Obama did enough to warn Congress about them.
One day after Congress voted overwhelmingly to override President Obama's veto of a bill allowing terror victims to sue foreign governments, they're now looking to tighten it. The law would allow the families of 9/11 victims to sue Saudi Arabia for the attacks. 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi nationals, and the plaintiffs believe Saudi intelligence helped them gain entry into the United States. The kingdom denies any role in the attacks and said in a statement after the vote, "It is our hope that wisdom will prevail and that Congress will take the necessary steps to correct this legislation in order to avoid the serious unintended consequences that may ensue." Now, some lawmakers are worried the bill could spark retaliation that may put Americans abroad in danger. So they're looking to narrow it so that it would allow only 9/11 families to sue Saudi Arabia. Meantime, Republicans are saying President Obama should have done more to warn them against the legislation. A little snark from White House spokesman Josh Earnest.
Leader McConnell said that the 9/11 bill may have unintended ramifications. Lawmakers will have to discuss fixes. He says the White House was too slow to warn about the, quote, potential consequences.
You had letters from the director of the CIA, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the Commander-in-Chief all warning about the potential impact of the bill. So it's hard to take at face value the suggestion that somehow they were unaware of the consequences of their vote.
So now they're looking for ways to tighten this legislation. Ben, what do you make of all of it?
Look, I do have to say, I mean, Congress, it's your job to write the legislation, right? I mean, you've got one job, write the laws. So this almost, now it reminds me of that old, we have to pass the bill to figure out what's inside of it. This is a very hard topic, and it's very an emotional one. I lost one of my best friends from high school on 9/11, so I certainly understand that emotional, context that's here. Look, the reality is Saudi Arabia is a partner with us right now. Today, they are a partner against terrorism because it's in their best interest because of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. But you cannot escape the fact that Saudi Arabia has been the single largest provider of funds to that Wahhabi and Salafist jihadist movement that is the baseline ideology for Al-Qaeda and ISIS and these other terror groups. So it's a thin line here. And look, I do think they do need to fix this because we do have American soldiers that are abroad, and something like this could open them up to lawsuits. But I do think the family should have their day in court, but let's not pretend that Saudi Arabia is our friend because that's absurd.
The Wall Street Journal editorial page actually said that supporters of the bill actually rejected any compromise, including language that would limit the lawsuits to just the 9/11 victims. And the Journal editorial page says the real game is to enrich the trial bar, because now all it takes is subpoenaing documents by lawyers and testimony from U.S. and foreign governments, and it's going to complicate our diplomacy and our security.
These are the biggest bunch of dummies I have ever seen in my life. They're blaming other people, as you pointed out, Ben, for their own misgivings and their own misinterpretation of what could happen. You know what triggered this? Somebody pointed out to them after this legislation passed, and by the way, I do agree these people deserve their day in court, but specifically on the subject of whether this should be law or not, somebody pointed out to them that you, Mitch McConnell, or you, Congressman X or Senator Y, are going to be sued individually by foreign government now for actions that the United States take. And all of a sudden, oh heavens to Betsy, oh my goodness, now they're going to come after me personally. Do your job, Congress. You knew what was in it. And by the way, what should have happened is we should have demanded that the government release those redacted pages in the 9/11 report about what Saudi Arabia's role was, find out exactly what it was, and then made an informed decision as to whether to sue or not.
Trying to have their cake and eat it too. I mean, they can go ahead of time and say that they voted for it, and then afterwards say that they had misgivings. They can be on every single side of the issue. They knew what it was before they signed it. I don't believe this, that they didn't read it and they didn't understand until afterwards. I think they knew all along everything that was going on. Chuck Schumer, you have the portion of the bill in there where the Justice Department can come out and put a hold on whatever lawsuits are there if they say